Hello, everybody. Welcome to the After Dinner Leadership Podcast. It's lovely to have you back, and pull up a chair, take a listen. I'm going to be really delighted to introduce you to the guest that we have today. But before I pull back the curtain on them, just want to remind you, this is a place where we like to talk about the real, honest conversations, the messy and the brilliant realities of leading others, and the lessons we wish we'd learned earlier in that process. Before I introduce you to today's guest, and I love the conversation that I had with him, I want to spend a few minutes just talking about one of the things that came out of that conversation. And it's the idea of being okay with being uncomfortable. When we're in our early stages of our career, it can be very easy to look at established CEOs and think they've got it all sorted, and that there's an element of ease and calm that comes along with that seniority. They must have all the answers. And I'll only be a real leader once I feel completely confident. And in reality, that's an absolute myth. Real leadership isn't about reaching some magical plateau that we know everything and never feel stressed again. Real leadership is actually about expanding comfort zones. That craziness, that chaos, that messiness is actually a little bit more comfortable. And perhaps you could take a moment to think about the last time you felt truly uncomfortable. There's different levels that we might have in the workplace. It could have been a difficult conversation, a tough meeting, asked to take on extra responsibilities. Even this morning for me, I had a team meeting. It was a great meeting. We were talking about how we can create more awe-inspiring learning experiences for our clients. And part of the conversation turned to some of the things that I could do more effectively in the design process and also the implementation process. And elements of that were uncomfortable for me. I was listening to the team's suggestions about what I could do better. I'm really glad we went there, and it is a place of growth for me, but it could be easy for me to have shut that down. And I'm sure in past occasions I may have done so. But think about the kind of decisions you're making, perhaps when you didn't have all the information, maybe not enough information you'd like. That's a bit of a discomfort that can kick in. Admitting that we're wrong, telling your team that the strategy that we had in mind, we're going to need to turn maybe 180 and do something else now because of what the market's happening. These are all places of discomfort. Every single one of those moments can make us feel queasy or make our stomach drop. And as a consequence, it can be very easy to avoid them and to do something else, to play safer, to pretend that we've got it all figured out. But I think in that space, in that discomfort, there's a real lesson that we can actually learn and apply, and that's taking us into higher levels of growth. So it's easy to think that discomfort means that we're doing something wrong. Now, there's another way of looking at it, which is to see it as some sort of compass, that it's actually being out of our depth on a particular day or a particular week probably means that we're actually taking some risk that's taking us out of the shallow end into something where we're going to have to make some braver decisions. And so discomfort often equals growth. If you look back at various challenging times that you've had throughout the career, that's going to be some of the ways in which you've been able to grow. And those are typically, I would suggest, have been places of discomfort, not comfort. And learning the skills associated with that, learning to breathe through awkward silences, learning to make a judgment call without real clarity around the data or the outcome, can be massive places of growth, massive places to adapt. And that's where our guest on this episode comes in. I'm really pleased to welcome Aleck Jones, the CEO of Kindling Bio. He has got a wonderful energy and a great mindset. And we spoke at some length around this idea of being okay with being uncomfortable. And Aleck and his team are developing next generation gene therapies, specifically targeting childhood cancers. Think about the level of responsibility that sits on your shoulders in just that sentence alone. And he's leading a company that is really at the cutting edge of science and medicine. and where some of the answers don't exist yet. And they're literally looking to change the future of oncology. Now, Alex has got an amazing dynamism in the way that he communicates, and I love that. The first time I met him, just it really exudes this enthusiasm for his and passion for what he's doing and the research he's doing, which I loved. I was just drawn into that, magnetized by it. And in our chat, we go into some depth around how he manages that, the types of pressures he's dealing with, and the scientific unknowns as well as other unknowns that he has to deal with as a leader. And whether you're managing a team of 2 people or 2,000 people, Alex's insights on embracing the unknown are really worth listening to. So pull up a chair, get a notepad and paper ready, and let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Aleck Jones. Enjoy. And a very warm welcome to Aleck Jones to the After Dinner Leadership podcast. Welcome, Aleck. It's lovely to be with you.
Thank you very much, Simon. It's lovely to be with you.
Now, we met in a wonderful opportunity for me to hear the offering that you're putting out to the world, and I'm sure that will come up as we come into the conversation. But striking me more than the message was the messenger, which is or as equal as the message, because your message is very important. We'll talk about that later. But was your message and your energy and stuff. So maybe in this question, I'll take you back to your childhood. What was the source of that energy? What food reminds you of your childhood?
I mean, I could pick a few out there, but when you asked me that question, the very first thing came to my mind was the one time I was making stewed apples with my grandma. She had all of these tiny little packets of sugar, and we must have put about 1 kilo of sugar into these apples. So when my mum came to collect me, I was bouncing off the walls like a little sugar demon. So it's probably that, and that links quite well to the energy question as well.
I think so. Actually, I mean, hopefully this doesn't steal the thunder from later, but perhaps you could do a couple of things. One is just describe the company that you run, and maybe a little bit about what you're bringing to the world. That would be a good start. And then we'll talk about energy in a second. But
yeah, absolutely. So I am CEO of Kindling Bio. We are developing a new way of treating cancer for children, because right now children are being treated with drugs that were developed for adults literally decades ago, and it's causing lifelong problems. And we want to change that with a way of treating children that is designed for their cancers and then can expand from that really impactful point.
So where do I go from there? I mean, that's just what an offering. I'm so excited by what you're doing. And what about this energy? Where's your energy source? Like, where do you get that from? Because it's immediately obvious as soon as you meet you. There's a dynamo.
A dynamo. I don't know. I appreciate that. I think I lean into myself more and more as I get older, and it's just that internal excitement I have in me. I just want to share that with everyone. And then it certainly helps when I meet someone where they can match some of that energy, because it feeds, because I think we feed off each other.
Yeah, great. The staple questions we have for our guests is, what 3 leadership lessons do you wish you'd learned earlier? And I'd love to just, if you can, at a high level, just share those 3, and then we'll explore them in a bit more detail.
Sure. Okay, so with the caveat that I'm still a work in progress, we all are. So
yes,
these are just 3 of many lessons of ongoing learning. I guess the first one, if I had to give headlines, the first one would be the power of experience. That is just so important. And it's a bit of a cheat, obviously, because experience is a lesson that you can only learn when you learn it. Then the second one is, you're meant to feel uncomfortable. You are meant to feel uncomfortable. That's okay. And the third one is probably the most powerful version of you as a leader, is the authentic one. It's the authentic one.
Yeah, great. All right. Which of those would you like to go to first?
Oh, let's go for the cheating one first, the power of experience. It's really important. I did wonder about putting that in there.
Go on. What's give me the next layer then. Why is that such an important lesson that you've learned?
I think it's because you constantly come up against hard decisions in leading, in life, in all walks. And having a reserve of experience to draw on to say, I've been there, I've done that, the next time, it makes you approach it differently. It gives you maybe some sort of inner grit. And that's really helpful, both how you view it and how you view even new challenges when you meet them.
You voiced the dilemma there, the tension there. Let's say I'm 24, 25 years old, and I'm thinking, I haven't got experience. So how can I take that into my leadership? I haven't got the experience. How do I deal with that?
I know. And what I would push back at where I'm sitting now, and I didn't know then, but I wish I had done, was you've got 24 years of experiences by then. You do have experience. Yes. Exactly. So you can always take time. You don't have to have experienced the exact same thing before. I mean, it helps. It certainly helps. But you can draw on having done things and achieved things, and it gives you that little drive to go through a new challenge. So that you've always got an experience you can draw on, even if it's indirect.
What would you, so this reflective point, which I love, and I totally agree with your point, what would have helped you to have realized that or recognize that at that time? So you're saying you're seeing it in hindsight. Well, what would help you to be more aware or wake up to that?
I mean, I wish I could say it would be an intelligent podcast guest telling me that. Do you know, it's one of those really tricky things I think you only really learn and recognize by doing it yourself. So it's one of those lessons that takes time to learn, but even being aware that it's there and keep working at it, keep thinking about it. So even if you go through a thing and then you realize, oh, I wish I'd thought of this experience or that experience at the time, that's okay. You're going to meet another challenge. Try and do it then. Keep building. Like I said, we're a work in progress. So there's no easy way through that.
The answer to this question that I'm going to ask is probably in the second lesson learned, but you talked about establishing this grit and taking, and what I've inferred from that is that you've got challenging experiences, setbacks, failures, mistakes. How have you found to make those enablers rather than something that's brought you into a smaller circle to protect yourself? Do you get what I'm aiming at? How have you turned that into, right, actually I can learn from this, rather than, oh, I've learned from that, I'm never going to do that again, I'm not going anywhere? Yeah.
Oh, if someone could teach all of us that. I think it is partly accepting that it's okay to feel like that for some time. If you do meet a challenge, don't beat yourself up for not immediately having a theme tune coming on and you fly through the challenge with flying colors. It's okay to not feel entirely comfortable or happy with it, but it's then trying to realize you can't stall at that point. You can accept it, but you have to then think, well, do I want to come through this? How can I try to start working through that while accepting that I feel that way? And again, that's not easy. That's really, really hard. So just, recognizing there will be a way and slowly working through it without stalling at that point. Stalling is the danger rather than the actual feelings.
Yeah, thank you. Give us an insight, Aleck, into the world that you're in at the moment. It's a fiercely competitive environment. Establishing, not just an organization, but the nature of treatments requires a huge amount of capital to bring it through to success. So what have you? yeah, tell us a little bit about the landscape first, and then we'll talk about how you deal with that. What's it like for somebody who doesn't know your world, and what is it? What do you have to go through to help your organization to grow?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of challenges. So if you start from where we are, we started with an idea we believed in, but an idea, and we're having to go through the steps of first showing that that idea can be a reflection of reality and a reflection of how the world can be. We have an idea of how the world might be, and we can move it to there. So that's the first step. And then we're trying to do that in an area that has, for decades, been considered difficult, challenging. Cancer for children. It's emotive, it's important, and it's difficult. So it's trying to shift that thought of this is too hard to touch or we can't do this into we can. And that's understanding what's been holding both the field back and what's been holding back perceptions, because those are two things we need to change. That's where we're working at the moment. Now, slightly longer term, it's also then understanding how we turn that proof of concept into a drug, into a reality. And that's a development, a tricky development roadmap, many years, 10 years time, that we need experience and other people to help us move through.
Yeah. And what are some of the challenges that you've come up against in terms of challenging perceptions?
Okay, so I think we can all agree that helping children is important. That, there's no one out there who thinks we shouldn't have really good drugs for cancer. Thankfully, childhood cancers are each individually rare, but that also means it's really challenging to develop a drug for an individual childhood cancer from the drug development economics point of view. So the big perception change we need to have is that you can actually build a drug or a therapeutic for children that is impactful and can make sense from a business point of view. Now, at Kindling, we've found a way to do that with a different way of looking at how we build for childhood cancers. And it's a big shift in actually then explaining there is another way of looking at this. What seemed to be a problem actually is something you can solve. It's soluble. That's how I see that big challenge in perception.
Yeah. And you talked about this second lesson about you're meant to feel uncomfortable. What has been the most uncomfortable aspect of that for you?
Of that specifically, I mean...
Yeah, so as you're trying to change these perceptions, you're trying to lean into that. I guess you get some resistance and some people pushing back in terms of even concepts that you are trying to help them understand. They may have a different view. I just wonder what are some of the blockers and barriers where you felt most uncomfortable, and then I guess where have you gone to get through those?
Well, I mean, everyone comes with their own list of experiences. So, when you're talking to perhaps someone who has looked at this problem several times before and has come up against their own reasonable decisions that, okay, this is a hard problem that maybe we can't move past, it can feel uncomfortable, challenging that idea. And you have to have that inner confidence that you actually can see a route through and that you can help someone else also see that same path as you. Someone to imagine the future in the way that you can see that future as well. Because also, you will get perception of maybe they're trying to make you see the future how they see it. So there can be some clashing and discomfort, and you have to try to, I think there are very few people out there who don't sometimes have a little niggling voice at the back of their heads saying, the little devil on the shoulder. And the difficult part can be quieting that, and maybe that links back to that first lesson of experience, that inner confidence that you build. So there's definitely discomfort in that, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm hearing that, and the other transition that I can anticipate is moving from, I'm going to call it researcher to leader, researcher to, let's call it business owner. How have you managed that? And I'm sure there were some points of discomfort in that process as well, coming from a more academic maybe mindset into the more commercial. Do you understand where my question's coming from on that one?
I definitely understand where your question's coming from,
Yeah.
because at times, always, it feels like you're stepping out into the unknown. I mean, it could have been very easy for me to keep functioning in an environment where I felt very comfortable doing variations on something, and stepping out into pushing myself in different directions, into using different skills or skills I have in different ways, or developing completely new ones, even learning things about a new world, new way of speaking. That can feel really uncomfortable, especially like, oh, I thought I did all my learning 15 years ago. Actually, no.
Yes.
But that is also great. I can genuinely, honestly say that the best changes in my life have come from putting myself in uncomfortable situations, because it means I'm learning something, I'm growing, and it's something that changes how I'm thinking. And that is really why I'm saying you're meant to feel uncomfortable, because you feel uncomfortable because you're doing something new, you're pushing yourself, you're challenging, which is brilliant. And I wish I'd learned that before, because I'd made myself feel even more uncomfortable. I mean, there's a balance, but
yes,
seek out the challenging times, because that's what's going to show you something that you don't necessarily see right now. Learn about yourself.
Yeah. So I love that. I love that mindset, and it comes through. And think back to some of the work we did together, and I can feel the ripples of that. In there's just some of the methods you were using to share your point and all those type of things. It was great. All right. Well, that's a lovely link into your third section there, which is about authenticity. And yeah, what is it about this that's a lesson you wish you'd learned earlier?
Okay, so I guess the word leader, it can conjure up all sorts of images and ideas, and I mean different things to different people. And you say, okay, I want to be that leader, or I want to be like that leader. Actually, the most powerful version of you as a leader, it's the authentic one. It's who you are. Or at least this is what I found. That if you lean into your own personality, your own strengths, that authenticity, that really comes through. Now, the tricky part with that is it also means there's no mask to hide behind. You have to, in a way, you have to be vulnerable at some level to be strong, because you have to be you and put yourself out there. But it also comes with some sort of liberating feeling as well. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's really important. Yeah.
It does. One of the things that I've had this conversation a few times, really, is like, authentic to which version of you?
Yeah, that is true.
I mean, you think about what we've just spoken about the last 10 minutes, and you think about the self that wants to grow and to be uncomfortable and strive for better versions of themselves and all that kind of thing. That's the self. And then there's being authentic to the self who says, hey, you're uncomfortable. That's not very nice. You ought to be where you're more comfortable. And that is the real version of you. Because if you are trying to be something you're not, that's going to make you uncomfortable. So that's not very authentic. So where do you sit in that space?
Oh, I love that. I guess we are a sum of so many conflicting parts and ideas, and that's almost what I mean when I was saying that sometimes you have to accept how a situation makes you feel, because there's the authentic you. Okay, you can accept that you're feeling uncomfortable, And there's also the authentic you saying, okay, I don't want to stall in this position. I want to keep moving. I want to keep driving forward. And that's where some of that experience can come in. So there is an authentic you, and that can change and vary, but it also means that I have my own personal leadership ethos, if you want to call it that, my own personal style. And I can do that, but no one else can do it in exactly the way I can. In the same way, I can't do this in exactly the way someone else can. And if I tried to do that, I'd be trying to force myself into something that wasn't quite me. And the same, someone else would be trying to force themselves. So you've got to try and be the best you in that situation, accepting that, you know, this is how you feel, but you have your own personal strengths that you can build with. So it's humans are messy. We're messy.
Yes.
And there is a you in there somewhere.
Yeah. How did you personally come to recognize some of those facets that were Alex?
Yeah. That kind of goes back to that feeling uncomfortable thing, because I found myself growing much more when I'm giving more of myself to people, to the world, to being much more open with me rather than, I don't know, a version of me that I might think people might think that I, you know, it's trying to feel that discomfort of putting myself out there saying, hey, that's me. That's where I could start growing into that and being that authentic version of me. I mean, that's not to say that anyone should say, okay, here's the authentic version of me. That's the perfect leader now, because we change. We're always changing at every point of our lives, and the authentic me in leading today can be different tomorrow. Can be different. That's okay. We grow.
Yeah, I find it it's one of these topics that's quite easy to say, and then the reality of it's, where is that space that I get the very best version of me coming through for these moments that I need it, is a real interesting place of exploration and seeing where those lines are, where the boundaries are. And I loved it when we met previously, Alex, that you were willing to experiment with different places on that. We were preparing or you were, pitching your ideas and really just trying to hone that idea through to its real core elements, because under significant time pressure. And I wonder whether there's something in that, in the broader leadership space, of just the recognizing, going back to your original point, the crucible of experience, this kind of melting pot that we're in. We actually can learn a huge amount about what our strengths are in those moments, can't we? That we don't get when we're in the peaceful waters, perhaps in the storms, that we realize, oh, that's who I am. That's who emerges at my best in those moments of difficulty and crisis even.
Yeah, I think you have really summed it up nicely. It's, you learn a lot about yourself when you're tested, because I think the difficult times really push you to your almost your unthinking reactions, because you have that emotional response, and it's very easy then for that that very ordered, structured facade, if you want to call it, to slip away, and you'll get your internal experiences, and the authenticity is almost who you are beneath that. So seeking out those difficult times is, you learn a lot about yourself, you build that body of experience, but it's also feeding in and changing you. I mean, it's complicated. It really is. And that helps you just get to a point where when you do meet another stormy water, like you put it, you don't throw anchor and stall there. You keep going, and then you meet another. And that, I really like how you phrase that.
So in that space, what is something you used to value that you don't value quite as strongly now?
Yeah. So I guess that really links to this idea that we're evolving, and sometimes the strengths that are good at one storm won't necessarily get you through the next tropical storm. So for me, I used to lean quite heavily on some of that analytical type of view, and I can do that. I'm very good at taking a whole load of information and plotting it out, and which is good for making a nice reasoned decision. But sometimes you can't get all of that information. Sometimes it's tricky, and sometimes that can just slow a bit. And it's trying to keep the good and still have that skill, but let some of it go and say, okay, maybe I can value some of those, call it gut feelings, or some of those decisions where maybe it's impossible to do that full analytical thing, and just embrace that's also sometimes the right way to get through the metaphorical storm.
Yeah, I can see that. Wonderful. So let's look to the future then. What's your vision for Kindling Bio and childhood cancer treatments? Give us a little bit more on that, because I think this is something people need to hear.
Okay, so right now with childhood cancers, we're trying to treat them like adult cancers, like these strongly mutational adult diseases, but they're not. They're developmental diseases. They're hard for the immune system in children to recognize, and they are all individually rare, so they look very different. So with Kindling Bio, we're trying to find a way to overcome those barriers and be able to treat lots of different cancers. Our platform creates flags in tumors that we know children can see and respond to. It makes lots of different cancers look alike to the immune system and enables a single immune response to attack lots of different types of cancer. So we can address with one therapy all of these rare diseases, unify them, and make a big change for children, which we can then expand out from there. And if you were to ask me, how do I, what's the future that I see for it? I see.
What's the future you see for it, Aleck?
Fantastically insightful question. Now, I really, it's a way where we look at the world and say we can treat these cancers in a different way. Just because they're rare doesn't mean that we have to try and shoehorn new things in. That this feeling that everyone has that children are important and we should be treating them as well as we can is actually a reality, that there's a different way of looking and doing these things. So that's how I see it, that children are important and we're treating them the way we want to treat them.
Yeah. I love the phrase, the one that sticks in my mind is, there are not many adults. That was a phrase I remember from the first time we spoke. There are not many adults and we're treating them like they are. And I love what you're doing there. I guess the question: why did you turn to childhood cancers? You've stated that the prevailing one of the prevailing perceptions was it's hard to make that commercially successful. So it'd be easier to focus somewhere else, perhaps. So why did you go to the discomfort of this area?
Because, well, first, it's important, and second, we see an opportunity where if you look at this in a different way, if you can turn a hard problem on its head, then actually the question can become, well, why wouldn't we do that? So unfortunately for lots of childhood cancers, the treatment options are very, very, very limited. So to make a big impact, we will move very, very quickly to actually being able to help these children with our new therapeutic. Because we can do that not just for one childhood cancer, but for lots of them, it means that we can flip that difficult problem of commerciality on its head and actually make that a commercially viable route as well. So then when you draw those two aspects together, that actually you move very quickly in a commercial environment and you make huge impact to people, to families, then why wouldn't you draw those things together? Individually, okay, they're hard things to do. Together, they make sense. So it's looking at a problem in a new way.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, I'm so glad that you have, and I'm so glad you are. And I'm excited to see where that takes us in the future as well, Aleck. And think about the 3 lessons that we've spoken about today. Which of those is most significant as you were preparing and thinking these things through?
Significant on a personal growth level is probably seeking out discomfort, because it changes you. It allows you to see the world in a different way, and it changes what's possible, what you can see. Now, part of that then builds that first pot. It builds the experience pot. Sometimes it's not the route that you should have gone down, but then you know that, and you know that for the next time. So seeking out opportunities to change, to keep growing, to do new things is just so important. So I'd say that, actually, yeah.
Great. Without sharing anything commercially sensitive, of course, but what is the discomfort you are currently seeking?
The discomfort that I am currently seeking. So we are putting together all of the evidence and steps that we believe turn our idea about how the world might be into something that is a reality. Now, the discomfort is we're now taking that out into the world. We're taking it out of the little protective bubble we have in the lab. We're showing that to others, and we can get some great feedback. But feedback comes in 2 ways. People say, "Oh, that's great," or people can, show you, "Oh, have you thought about that?" Or maybe that doesn't quite. "Oh, I'm not convinced about that." So you open that up to criticism as well. And again, that's good because it helps you keep growing. But there's discomfort in that, and there's the balance of taking something out, showing people, and using it to keep moving forwards, because it's really important for the mission of where we want to go that we do take it out, that we get others along with us. And it can be uncomfortable exposing that, but we have to. It's important. We want to. And there's a lot of duality there. Do you know what I mean?
I do indeed. Yeah. Well, I wish you the best of success. If anyone wants to reach out to you, Aleck, how's the best way they do that?
They can find me on LinkedIn. I'm visible there, and I'm always happy to talk to anyone.
Great. Well, thank you for being generous with your time. I know there's lots of other things that are pulling you in other important directions, and grateful you've given time for us to learn a little bit more about how you're wired and the important work that you're doing. Wishing you success, and also lots of good apple pies with lots of sugar to keep that energy up going forward, Aleck, and and lots of other ways in which you can bring the world some and families some good relief from some pretty tragic or traumatic news. So thank you for all that you're doing, and I wish you the best of success going forward.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's really important what we're doing, and I appreciate talking to people like you about it, because we can't do anything. No one can do anything in isolation, and it's important to get that group of people together. So thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. Thank you.